What's up guys, welcome back to Fancy Goldfish Fanatics. Today we are doing another episode of Rate My Tank, so make sure you stay tuned to find out more. Hey Fanatics family, welcome back. As always, check out those links in the description and make sure you check out our brand new Facebook page, link down below. Today we are going to be doing another episode of Rate My Tank. For those of you who have not watched the channel before, Rate My Tank is where we have a tank or fancy goldfish setup put on the video, as you can see today, put on the video, and we are going to be looking at the positives, the negatives, the drawbacks to it, what things I would potentially change, and just overall having a good look at the tank and seeing some lovely and stunning fancy goldfish. Now, nothing is negative. We do not have any bullying or any negativity on people's tanks. If people's fish are happy and healthy, then they are absolutely inclined to do what they want with their tank, the way they set it up, the way they decorate it, and the way they maintain it. So let's get some videos on the channel. Let's check out our first fancy goldfish setup, and I'll catch you at the end of the video. So first up, as you can see, we have this absolutely stunning Ranchu tank. Now this video has been taken quite close in, so we can't actually see the full tank, but what I can see are some absolutely really high quality Ranchu, great quality fish. But today in this video, as it is a Rate My Tank video, we are not going to be focusing too much on the fish and more on the tank itself. I'm really liking the contrast between the black sand substrate and those larger white stones, and I really like the use of the bubble wall in the background. I really like having bubble walls in the back of fancy goldfish tanks, not only because they are aesthetically pleasing to the eye, but also they provide lots of aeration and help to gas off CO2. I'm also liking the addition of the micro sort of Java ferns that we've got planted and dotted around the system. They will also help to remove some nitrate and phosphate from the water, but they also serve a purpose of aesthetics, and they just look really nice to look at. One thing I may mention is these white stones on the substrate look a little bit sharp potentially. If this is a mixed tank, males and females, and there is any spawning or breeding behaviour, potentially the fish could knock themselves and injure them on those stones. But if the owner has made sure that these are nice and smooth and they're not going to cause any damage to the fish, then no problem at all. They look absolutely great. Really like the black background as well, and the real whole look of this tank. Overall, I'm going to give this tank a 4.2 out of 5 stars. Absolutely stunning. So next up, as you can see, we have a much larger tank, and here we have a video of the entire tank in its entirety. You can see there are multiple goldfish, multiple different Orandas, Ranchu. There are different varieties in this tank, and the owner has really sort of put lots of ornaments and decoration in the tank as well. Some really big fancies. The owner clearly is good at growing their fish, and they are potentially really old fish. It looks like they've also got a mix of some other fish in there, maybe some platies or mollies. I think they are platies though, and I think there are some apple snails in there as well. Really liking the addition of apple snails. Now, we don't commonly see snails in fancy goldfish tanks, but if you can get some larger snails, just like the apple snails, they do a really good job at eating algae and cleaning up. However, you definitely don't want to add them if you have any plants in your tank, as they will eat them. But I really like the addition of the apple snails, and they are too large for the fancies to eat them. Also, personally, the decoration is not my style. However, the owner has done a really nice job adding that sort of diver's helmet and a few shells and rocks into the tank, and it creates quite a nice feature. Most of us, or some of us, may keep our tanks completely bare, and often other people do not appreciate looking at tanks that are completely bare, and having some decor or some ornaments in there does help to create a nice looking tank overall. And everyone has their different requirements and their different ideas of what makes a fancy goldfish tank. Really like the white substrate, helps illuminate the tank, make it look nice and bright, and the fish look absolutely stunning. One thing I would say is the tank looks a little bit cloudy. Potentially the fish have just been fed, or there are high levels of bacteria or phytoplankton in the water. Potentially adding a UV light, if there isn't one already on the system, may help to get a little bit better water clarity, but otherwise the fish look really good. Obviously some are slightly lethargic, but I would have said that's just down to age and just the body shape and formation of these fish. I really like the balance of the two air stones either side of the tank, which creates a really nice look with the big diver helmet in the middle. So overall, I really like this tank. Not too much I would change to it. Personally, if it was my tank, I may take a few of the shells out and have a little bit more of a simplistic aquascape, but overall really liking the fish. Some absolutely stunning fancies in there as well, and overall the tank's really nice. Lots of different things to look at and a really nice busy tank. As I mentioned, potentially I would add a UV sterilizer or maybe work on the water polishing just a little bit. I really like how this tank is a little bit different, and although it's not quite my taste, I really like the thought and effort that the owner has put into not only the tank itself, but also the livestock. So overall, I'm actually going to give this tank a 4.5 stars out of 5. Really like it, very unique and very different to what we commonly see. Now, next up we have a very small fancy goldfish tank, and something you probably wouldn't expect to see on the channel. A very generic, standard, not even hobbyist grade tank. Lots and lots, if not thousands, tens or hundreds of thousands of people have fancy goldfish tanks just like this. They're not that into the hobby, they just like looking at the fish. They don't clean the tank much, they don't feed the fish too much, and they just don't want to do too much maintenance. But I thought it was really interesting to talk about a tank like this because we don't often talk about them. We often talk about the larger tanks, the high-end tanks, the really fancy, showy tanks that the hobbyists really care for. So I thought it was really interesting to have a smaller tank on the channel today and having a close look at it. So first of all, we can see that we have quite a lot of gravel on the bottom. Now, there are many old school fancy goldfish keepers that have kept their fancies with gravel for decades and have had no problem at all. Personally, I would not add gravel to my fancy goldfish tank, although it does create a natural feeding response and they can sift through it, and it is really good enrichment for them. With our ever-changing fancy goldfish bodies getting shorter and rounder, often if a fish consumes a piece of gravel or a few pieces of gravel, it can lead to an impaction, can lead to bacterial problems, organ failure, and eventually death of the fish. So I would always try to avoid gravel. If you are going for gravel, go for something quite small. Also, we can see we've got quite a few ornaments and plants in here. Personally, of this size of tank, I would remove those. Although I can see the plant in the middle is a silk plant, which is nice and soft. So if the goldfish ever bump into it, it's not too much of an issue. And if we focus on the fish themselves, these are comets or fantails, or just straight ordinary goldfish, and these will get to very big sizes. Easily they can get 6, 8, 10 inches long. So generally these fish are best suited for a pond environment. But overall, nice tank. The thought has been put into it. You can see with the coloured gravel, although it's not my taste, and also the ornaments as well. Overall, there is a few things I would change. Firstly, the stocking and the use of ornaments, and I'd maybe make it a little bit more naturalistic with some sand as well, and probably put some different fancies and definitely reduce the number of fancies as well. Overall, I'm going to give this tank a 3 out of 5 stars. But finally, you may recognise in the top left corner, this is actually Solid Gold's telescope eye fancy goldfish aquarium. Now, I know Solid Gold doesn't produce fancy goldfish videos anymore, but she is probably, I would say, the original pioneer of social media with goldfish, and I always love watching her videos. And today we actually are going to be looking at her telescope eye fancy goldfish aquarium. Now, I really like this tank because it is species specific, obviously with the fancies, but also it is variety specific and also color specific as well. So we have 3 telescope eye calico fancy goldfish. Really nice variety, one that is not often kept by hobbyists. They can sometimes end up with damage on their eyes if they are kept with any harsh ornaments, any sharp objects, but clearly you can see Solid Gold has done her research, obviously, and she has obviously put some nice soft plastic fake plants with them. The benefit of having fake plastic plants means you can clean them as often as you want. Also, they will not break down, they will not disintegrate unless they are really old, and the fish won't be able to eat them. However, I do tend to like some naturalistic plants, some like Anubias, Java Fern, Vallisneria, some more of the hardy plants, although you potentially will lead to the goldfish eating them. I think it provides a nice natural habitat for the fish and something for them to move around in, look around in, have a little root around in the roots, and it just also helps to improve water quality slightly. However, I really like the thought that's been put into this tank. Obviously, Solid Gold did have lots of tanks to look after, and keeping things simple so that maintenance is easy and cleanliness is at a optimal level, it is obviously best in this situation to put those plastic plants in. Now, focusing on the substrate as well, we have a really white substrate which helps to illuminate the tank. Often I find having a dark substrate and a dark background makes the fish's colours look better, but having a light coloured substrate makes the tank overall look a bit better, and well, I personally shouldn't say better, but a little bit more brighter, I should say, and just helps to capture the light within the glass tank itself a little bit better. Although if you do not have many fancy goldfish and you don't have a regular maintenance routine, white or light coloured substrate can get dirty very easily and it doesn't look good, especially if it is not being cleaned, turned and maintained regularly. However, overall, really like the tank, really low stocking levels, the fish have got plenty of space, they are often obviously well fed because they look really happy and healthy, and they are definitely not in an overstocked situation, which is really nice to see. And the water quality looks very good, really nice and clean. The fish are also very active. There is no sign of fin rot, no sign of parasites like white spot, and overall the fish look like they're doing really well. Obviously they can have complications with their eyes, but we are not focusing too much on the fish as this is the Rate My Tank episode. But overall, really like the tank, also really liking that background, that sort of textured fake artificial rock. Looks really nice, and Another thing we don't often see in our fancy goldfish tanks are those fake decor backgrounds. Really adds a little bit more naturalistic feel to this tank. Overall, really like the tank. Probably nothing I'd change. Maybe I'd add a few air stones, but obviously this tank is being kept with many others by Solid Gold, so it was, in a way, she wanted to keep it as simple as possible, and so maintenance could be as easy as possible, but potentially I'd add a few air stones as well. But overall, really like this tank. I'm going to give this one a 4.2 out of 5 stars. Absolutely love the tank, and as always, it's great to see some amazing fancy goldfish tanks that we've had on the video today. So hopefully you have enjoyed this video of Rate My Tank. Some really stunning setups on the video today and some absolutely lovely fancy goldfish. Really nice to see, and overall just amazing collections of fish. If you'd like to have your tank or your setup featured on a video just like this one, then leave a comment down below, or you can email me at fancygoldfishfanatics@gmail.com and I can send you all the information we need to have your fish or your setup on a video just like this one today. So that is it for today's video. Thank you all for watching. Remember to keep those water changes up, and happy fish keeping.